Joining me now, Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell. Andrew, thank you. We'll start with this High Court decision today, all the reasons. We've had the decision 2.5 weeks ago. Of course, this is the rationale for the decision. I played a grab there last night from the House, Peter Dutton saying, look, the only way forward here is to use the existing preventative detention framework. Clearly, he's been proven right. That's the recommendation from the High Court, sort of in obiter in parts of its judgment. So what's likely to happen now? Will the government put in legislation forthwith?
Well, Claire O'Neill's told the House about an hour ago in a very short statement, quote, "We are moving quickly to finalise a tough preventative detention regime before Parliament rises." So using the term finalise suggests you're talking about getting legislation through. Now, the House is kind of due to rise the end of this week, but the Senate is due to sit next week, and then there's a day set aside next Thursday for the House. So the government's not coming forward with any detail on this, but you'd suspect out of this, particularly given the High Court almost did them a favour by saying it is okay to have a preventative detention regime for some cases, like a child sex offender you think is going to re-offend. It does look like they'll put that in place. There are questions in this place tonight, though, about what sort of test will be required for that, because even the High Court said you'd have to prove there's an unacceptable risk of offending. So that would be a high standard, and it would have to go before a judge. So the government looking like they're going to act. They've flagged previously they're getting advice on it. You're quite right in pointing out the opposition suggested this framework first. But a bit of a surprise today too, Peter, in the High Court reporting its reasons now. It's almost like the High Court itself, the judges, feel some pressure in relation to this. It was only a 30-odd page statement of reasons. The ministers previously said the reasons weren't due until February or March. So I think the High Court's feeling a bit of heat on this too, and they're giving the government and themselves, I guess, in terms of their decision, a way out in terms of continuing to detain the highest risk offenders.
I think they would be mindful too, Andrew. We're going over to the Christmas period. The Parliament, will rise very shortly. It doesn't return until February. So you've got a whole lot of detainees, potentially more out of that extra cohort of 200, out on the streets. No really clear way that you could put them back behind bars if you had to. So I think that's the High Court deciding discretion's a better part of valour and getting on with it, getting that judgment out so Parliament can do something with it. I have to say, I followed you over the last couple of days in particular, and all of those emails that have come out, particularly in relation to the US State Department and others, the one that comes off worse in all of this, right across the board, I mean, Andrew Giles, the Immigration Minister, looks like a bit of a clown, but the person who's just not across her brief is Claire O'Neill. These emails contradict things she told you on your Sky News Agenda program. I think she's a real problem for the government.
Look, I'm surprised the opposition haven't gone harder for her on this point question time, I have to say, Peter. I mean, it's pretty obvious that what she said...
Because they probably don't want her sacked. Why would you want her sacked? Why would you want her sacked? I'd keep her there.
Well, I mean, yeah, but there's got to be accountability somewhere along the line. I mean, she wouldn't tell me on Sunday Agenda when she got this so-called advice that they were likely to win the case. These emails, filed to the High Court and picked up by us just because we just decided to go and have a look at the documents. They're clear that in August she's scrambling. She's scrambling like crazy, the minister, or her officials are on her behalf since August 29, to find somewhere else for this guy to go. They tried Saudi Arabia, they tried Bangladesh, they tried all Five Eyes countries, and eventually, on the eve of the state dinner visit of the Prime Minister of the US to Washington, they're trying the US State Department. Well, what happened, what these documents reveal, and what the judgment today reveals as well, is the High Court got fed up. They ended up having representations from the government saying we're trying to relocate this guy to the US so he does have a hope of not being indefinitely detained. And they said, well, the US aren't giving him a home, so he is indefinitely detained. See you later. But one of the emails has an official, a day or two after meeting Claire O'Neill in early September, saying the minister wants this a priority. She wants no stone unturned in resettling this individual. If she said, if she's making out, like she did on Sunday Agenda, that her advice was they were likely to win from that, that is directly and massively contradicting that. Why are they all sending emails on Saturday night, Sunday, as these emails show, and public servants of that, desperately trying to remove this guy? They knew they were going to lose. She didn't tell the truth on it, I don't think.
I don't think she did at all. I think it is blind panic. I think Labor's been caught out. You caught them out with the email, but I think she in particular has been a calamity from where to go on this issue. Talk to me about this Labor-dominated parliamentary committee that's recommending an increase in senators in the ACT and the NT. I mean, they want a whole lot of extra MPs in the lower house. I don't think that's ever going to happen, certainly at least without the population to increase. I think that's just cover, because the senators would be a game changer for the hard left, particularly if this government was to fall into minority at the next election.
Yeah, well, I've heard you say that, and look, it's hard not to come to that conclusion, because what government's ever going to put up 200 MPs for the House of Reps? I mean, yeah, I think you need to change the constitution for that, but you're never going to get it through, and you're going to look like idiots because no one wants more politicians in this country. The senators thing, like you say, you can say, well, let's just do the senators then, because Canberra's now, ACT's now got 500,000 people and Tassie has 300,000 or whatever. But there's no doubt that self-interest that's governing that, because they always win the Senate seats in the Northern Territory, Labor, and they always win at least one and often two of the ACT seats. And as you say, well, you call it the left or whatever, Pocock is a left-leaning MP, and he's beat out Zed Seselji in the ACT. So there's no doubt the numbers in the Senate for the government will be greatly improved by that change, and they can just do it through legislation, and they'd have a pretty reasonable chance with the crossbench and the Greens and so forth of getting it through. So, yeah, if I was tipping, I'd say that's what's going to happen. I think the opposition will jump up and down, as well they may, but I imagine it could happen and give them a bit of a Senate advantage. The problem for the government at the moment is where the polls are, their first order of priority for concern is the House and retaining government and not being a minority government. And I've got to say, with that news poll the other day, and things can improve for governments, it is mid-term, but people around here, including me, are starting to ponder the situation where you, with a large crossbench, you could have, say, 68 Labor, 67 coalition. And imagine that, Peter.